Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Welcome to my humble abode. Yes, I am sitting on my couch, and I am sure you are wondering what I am doing in my native habitat. All will be made clear here in a second, but I'm going to dive in. Today is a short and sweet topic, but it is extremely important for you to have this information under your belt because even though it is specialized information, that's what I'm here for, is to provide you with specialized information. So we learned in the last session on climate control all about how moisture and different variations of light and temperature are required to trigger germination in a seed. Well, it just so happens there's a few diva species out there that require a little extra, a little bit more extravagance. They require other types of pre-treatment in order to trigger their germination process. There are two words that you need to know where this topic is concerned: stratification and scarification. These terms both have to do with different triggers that occur within a seed's native environment that are aside from light, temperature, and moisture that cause these seeds to germinate. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples of these today and define them so you are aware of what these terms mean and how you can utilize them in the seed starting process. The first term is stratification, and stratification is either the cool moist treatment or the warm moist treatment of seed before they are able to germinate, and it usually is a prolonged treatment, a prolonged period of time. These seed are exposed to this. And the best example I have for you is native plants in Kansas here. So in the prairie, seeds come to maturity in late summer, early fall, and then they are oftentimes wind dispersed. And these seeds sit in the soil over winter, and they are experiencing this long, cool, moist treatment. And then when a certain temperature, a certain soil temperature comes around in the spring, the seed is able to germinate. And this is the best example, my experience with natural stratification that occurs within the prairie ecosystem. So that's a great example. Now there are other seeds that require cool treatments and warm treatments before they're able to germinate, but they're not oftentimes seeds that you're going to start for your garden, like your vegetables and your herbs. Now, on the flip side, let's talk about scarification. What is scarification? Scarification is the actual physical breakage of a seed's coat in order for it to germinate. So that might in nature look like a seed that freezes in the winter and expands, it swells, it cracks that thick seed coat, and then as it thaws out, as warmer temperatures come around, then it is able to germinate based on those temperatures that trigger it to germinate at that point. And it's able to penetrate its thick seed coat. Maybe another extravagant way a seed might be scarified in nature is if it drops from a really high point on a plant and hits the ground with gravitational force that breaks that thick seed coat. That seems a little bit more crazy, but it happens. So scarification is when a seed coat is so thick it needs to be cracked in order for that seed to be able to germinate. There is a more well-known example that I have for you of a seed that requires scarification that you might be planting. That is nasturtium. Now, if you don't know what the plant nasturtium is, you should. It's a really old-fashioned, lovely flower. It smells nice. It's an edible flower. Pollinators, hummingbirds love it, and it vines, it trails out, and has a really unique round leaf shape. And I just described it all, but I will definitely have a picture or video to put on here on this video for you to see what nasturtium looks like. But I grow several different variations of nasturtium every spring, and it requires scarification. The seeds are really big and the seed coat is thick, and it requires a physical breakage of that seed coat. And there's several ways to physically scarify, mechanically scarify seeds. And this is why I'm sitting on my couch, because I use the filing method. I use a file and I rub down the seed coat until I can see the embryo inside the seed. And I know at that point the seed will be able to germinate and and protrude from that thick seed coat. There are a couple other methods that are a little bit less accurate and take a little bit more practiced hand at. The first is using a hammer, just blunt force, cracking that seed coat against a concrete surface. Now, definitely, it's kind of a scary process. I've done it before because you don't really want to hold the seed down with your fingers and then whack with a hammer. You can end up with a lot of hurting hands. But another method is an acid bath. So you can use a chemical reaction to break down that seed coat. But you have to know exactly how long to leave a particular seed in an acid bath in order to get the results you want without damaging the embryo itself inside the seed coat. So that one's a little bit more tricky and maybe not a friendly at-home method for you to use. So I suggest a file. So I'm going to show you what that looks like on these nasturtium, but that is why I'm sitting here on my couch. It takes me several hours to get through thousands of nasturtium seeds, just filing away here, but it's very necessary. Now, I'm not going to tell you that nasturtium won't germinate if you forget to scarify them. It will just be very poor germination rate. So we're talking 10 to 20% of the seed that you plant are going to germinate if you don't scarify them. But there are those few that maybe have a thinner seed coat, then they're able to protrude, their radicle, their root and their shoot are able to come out even though there's a thick seed coat that hasn't been scarified. What will happen though is a lot of the seed will just simply rot if it's not able to germinate because it's not been filed. So that's scarification. So we've talked about stratification, we've talked about scarification, and they're really easy terms to confuse, but thankfully we live in a world of Google. But scarification is the one that you're most likely to use in your seed starting experiences in future. So that's what I have for you today in this session. Next time, I promise we're going to get into the process of actually sowing seeds and what that looks like. I'm going to give you some pro tips, some grower experience secrets, and we're going to talk more about perfecting that process. So make sure you go and check it out.